morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be my top 10 favorite eyeshadow palettes for the fall time. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today's video is going to be my top 10 palettes for the fall time. Now, this is the third time I'm doing this video, and I try to not double up any of my recommendations when I do these seasonal favorites videos. So I'll make sure to link my other two palette videos down below. So if you want more recommendations on some of my favorite fall time eyeshadow palettes, then you can watch those below because those are still favorites. In fact, if you will have seen my most recent 5 palettes I wanted to go back to video, you will have seen that some of those favorites are currently in my palettes I want to go back to pile because I love them so much. So yeah, I still stand by those, and that's why I just want to update you on my favorites, but we're not necessarily going to talk about the old stuff because the old stuff are they're still good. They're still good. But I have plenty of other fall palettes because they're usually some of my favorite color stories. So I've got plenty to talk about here. And in case you're new here, hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I like to come on here to chat about eyeshadow palettes, aesthetics reviews, and getting the use out of my makeup. Because I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, I deem myself a snow angel. If you would like to join the Snow Angel Club, then definitely click subscribe down below. We invite everybody to the club, but you don't have to be a snow angel yourself. But that is where I'm coming from when I'm doing my makeup reviews. So maybe you find that helpful, useful, whatever. Or if you just want to join the gang, click that subscribe button. So yeah, 10 favorite fall eyeshadow palettes. I had this already planned out months in advance because I kind of have a schedule when I want to do these, but I want to wait until it's like proper fall until I want to talk about fall palettes. Like, I see people already doing these at the start of September, and then, you know, we were still stuck in the middle of a heat wave. So I'm like, I don't need that. You know? So I'm like, right now it's like proper gloomy and windy and rainy, and we've had some really, like, a lot of rain. So now I feel like the fall vibes are truly there. So now we can talk about these things. So I definitely want to update you on some of the things that I love, that I think are really good color stories for the fall season. And my first pick is the Dollhouse from Blend Bunny Cosmetics. So this is a neutral toned eyeshadow palette, but it's nice and dark and grungy. So that's why I think this is very much fall vibes, but it's still a neutral. This isn't going to be like overly warm toned or overly crazy looking. This is a really stunning, I think, cool, like, it's got some cool tones, but it doesn't necessarily just have cool tones. And these two rows are actually a little bit too deep for my liking for like a very everyday look. But if you want to go darky, smoky neutrals, and this is the palette for you. I just felt that the jump between these two rows was a bit too big for my taste. I would have needed like a shade in between this for it to work. But especially like this row is like fall in a palette. But these like warmer rosy tones fall in a palette for sure. So this, I feel, in terms of like what it can do for a full-time color story, it can just do a lot. And I think that if you want to go neutrals for the fall time, there is no better palette than this. I would have wanted it to be more cool tones. I didn't always get the shimmers I wanted. And like I said, it was a bit too deep for my liking for sure. But overall, this is a really stunning palette, really good quality. And yeah, I really enjoyed this palette for sure. It just didn't do everything I wanted, but that still makes it perfect for fall though. Another really good fall time color story, and now I'm really happy I didn't declutter it yet, the Lois Cosmetics Meet Me in the Underworld eyeshadow palette. So this palette, like, I just want to keep it around for the packaging alone. Like, I put this in a makeup memory box and I was like, no, I need to get some more use out of it before I demote it to anything. And this, it just fall in a palette. You get your like warm and rosy tones over here, then you get your earthy green tones over on this side of the palette. I mean, I feel that in terms of like other color stories that have either just been announced or that we see a lot being released for the fall time, I think this truly takes the cake because you get every rendition of like a wood changing color in this entire palette. You get those really saturated orange tones that you get when certain trees start to turn color, but you also get that in-between stage before they get there. So to me, Meet Me in the Underworld from the Lois Cosmetics line didn't have the best shimmer quality, but the mattes are lovely, and I just really love this color story. And I mean, this like Greek tragedy kind of vibe it's got going on is also pulling on my heartstrings. I mean, I can't deny it. This is a good palette also from that perspective. Stunning packaging, really good fall color story. Now this guy is going to be discontinued, so I don't know if this is still around, but I do know that it's heavily discounted if it is. This is from Nomad. It's the Haunted Europe eyeshadow palette, and this is the outer box, which is so different from the outer packaging that I decided to keep it around. And we have the lady, and then we have a skull with a veil. Lady, skull with a veil. I just like it. And I really also like the color story in here. Again, we get all the fall vibes, but this does have some more cool tones, which is what I liked. But it's nice and grungy. You can do some stunning looks with this. And I have just found with Nomad Cosmetics that if it's a color story that I hold very near and dear to my heart, I really do enjoy them. I still find that the formula is a little bit on the thin side, so I feel this needs more building. But from a color story perspective, fall. Like this screams fall from left, right, and center. Like there isn't a single shade in here that I'm like, that wouldn't really go. I mean, again, it's very similar to the Meet Me in the Underworld. I just realized. So you have those greens here, get some oranges and golds, and then this thing here, that charcoaly, shiny gray. So stunning. Then you get some like smoky navy shades. With like a champagne shimmer, but it's like a taupey champagne. It's like a cool tone champagne. I'm not sure if I'm making sense. We get some plums, and then we get those warm tone berries, which, yeah, it's every row. Like you can easily do like 6 different looks with this and still not be bored. It's such a good versatile palette, and I love it for that. And then I have one brand in here twice. No, I have 2 brands in here twice because I have Unearthly Cosmetics The Lore. And I just, when I was planning out this video, I was like, this palette has to make an appearance. Yes, it has those warm tones, but I don't only love warm tones for the fall time. I also like those brighter shades. This is like a walk in the woods, and then you have like the little like what are these called? What is that kind of nature vibe called? Like heathers, and like it really gives me those kind of vibes. So this, it can be a little bit more neutral, even though this looks very colorful in the pan. The orange and also this yellow can be pulled in with like some of these shades to make it more of a neutrally look. And then you just have those warm tone berries. You can opt for the blue and the green to make it more vibrant. So you just have a lot going here, and I love how all these shimmers have a little bit of a different undertone to it. They all have flips, pretty much. But if a palette is called Fall Magic, then yes, it's a fall palette. This is also from Unearthly Cosmetics. So yeah, this is a very pretty palette, very perfect for fall. Again, on me, it was a little darker than I had expected. I thought that these 2 shades were going to be more neutral, but on me, they are quite deep. So I feel there aren't that many, like, there's not a lot of contrast in this between light and dark. It's just a lot of mid-tones, which, you know, we do get some really stunning shimmers in here. I'm not gonna lie. It has some really awesome shades. This shade here is stunning. I also really like that tealy blue. That makes for a nice bright pop. This is a perfect cool, like fall color story, I should say. It's not cool tone at all. I've got some cooler things coming on in a minute, but this is such a perfect fall tone palette, and yeah, I can't fault it for that. And maybe I should put this in a video again soon as well. I don't know, but yeah, this is a really good color story for the fall time. So then we have this guy, Patrick Ta's Major Dimension 2. And I saw some people featuring this in their fall palette videos, and I was like, yeah, actually, I would agree with that. So this wasn't my favorite. I've already reviewed this. I've shown you looks with it, done all the swatches, and I felt the mattes in here were stunning, but the shimmers in here I felt were a bit finicky, and the 2 creams, I just don't understand. I just recently heard someone say to, like, please Patrick Ta do a palette with only creams, and I was like, well, if he does that, I'm definitely not gonna buy it, because I didn't like the creams at all, personally. But in terms of color story for the fall time, like, if you love your warm tone rosy shades, this is the season, you guys. I would, like, I'm not that, like, fussed about, like, doing fall makeup in the fall time or whatever. I just use whatever I have and what I love, and that's what I do. But yeah, this is a stunning warm tone rosy color story if that's what floats your boat. And I definitely think, especially these 4 shades, just, this is fall. It's just fall. So that's why I did want to mention it here. It's not my favorite palette. I thought it was a bit overpriced for the quality we got, especially with those shimmers. They were very flaky, very chunky, very difficult to pick up with a brush, and therefore also very difficult to blend, which I didn't have a good time with it. But the mattes in here are stunning. And then I have 2 pretty similar palettes coming up, but they're from different brands. This is Fantasy Cosmetica, the Druid palette. And I mean, you'll understand. I mean, these greens with those teals and then these yummy brown tones, or warm tones I should say, and then those plummy shades. It's got multi-chromes, it's got some really intense shimmer shades. This is such a good fall color story. It just is. This is really, really lovely. And especially like the way these shades just come together is insane. And color story wise, I mean, I prefer this over some of the other things I've shown you so far. It's murky, it's grungy, it's got like that jewel undertone, but like dirty jewel tones, you know what I mean? Like jewel tones can be quite vibrant with like, but this has like the burgundy and the teal, and like everything has this murky, grungy undertone that I just love. So you knew this was going to be featured here. And then a palette that I don't think I've shown you yet because my haul, I think, is going to go live tomorrow. So this is, I'm going to say a bit more about this palette in tomorrow's haul. But my Glaminatrix order finally came in, and together with the Nearly Natural, I got the Nocturnal. And this was one that sort of was still on my wish list, but not quite. I wasn't sure when this launched whether I was going to get it, but then they announced the pre-order for the Nearly Natural and that they were restocking this. And then I was like, okay, then I'm going to buy that at the same time just to make the order more worth it. Now that I have it at home, I feel it doesn't look as grungy as it did in the pictures online. There was definitely a couple of brighter things, but I have the It's Freakin' Bats from Shroud and Betty Bean. And then I feel that this is a combination of the Druid and that palette. You get those periwinkles, but you also get this like chartreusey shade. You get the mustardiness. And you get this like weird, like pukey brown shade. I know that's a gross thing to describe a shade, but I do feel that this is that sort of, you know, is it a brown, is it a green, is it a yellow kind of shade, a bit like that. And then the shimmers in here, wowza. They are very intense, they seem to be very flippy, and I also see a bit of overlap here between some of the things that are going in the lore. So this is sort of like combining 3 different palettes all at once, and especially like this plum, like these 2. I can't wait to put those on my eyes. So yeah, the Nocturnal is one I still have to try, but just based on the color story, I think it's a good fall palette because it's got the grunginess, but it also has the vibrancy. So it's got a lot going for it, I feel. So that's why the Nocturnal had to get a mention. But I also wanted to make sure I put some really good cool tones in, and I was like, what makes me feel fall? And I know that to some people this may not, but my little Étoile palette from Viseart, like this, I know for some people this is going to be like a Christmas palette or like a winter palette, but these like really, especially these plums, that's what makes it fall for me. If it didn't have those like plummy purples, I would not have thought of this as a fall palette. And also this like tealy shade, and then these like charcoaly grays, and then you do have some really nice light shimmers. You get 4 mattes, 4 shimmers, and I think that in terms of like a smoky, yummy, grungy sort of eyeshadow palette, that this, it's just one of the best ones out there, I have to say. So that's why I think that this is another really good color story for the fall time, for that grungy moment, if you want to go more smoky grunge. And then finally, another Viseart palette. I mean, it's already in the packaging almost. But the Kashmiri, like I started the video with a neutral palette that I think is perfect for fall, but this is my other perfect fall neutral palette, I think. It's got that plummy outer packaging with the warm tones, but then when you open it up, inside the palette, you get a little bit of everything. It's got warmth over here, but then you get these like rosy tones. You get some really stunning cool tones down here. You get your neutral shades as well. So this just has everything you could possibly want in terms of a neutral palette, but without it going too much in a single direction, I feel. It's neutral all the way around with a bit of warmth, a bit of cool tone, a bit of rosy tone, but it all combines together really well as well. So the way this palette really works for me is like you can go quad, you can go duo, you can do this quad, you can do that quad. You can even go like diagonally if you'd like to. So there's so much you can do with this, like, and it's just foolproof every single time. And that's why the Viseart Cashmere is not just a great fall palette, but it's just a great palette, period. But for the fall time, I feel that these are the kind of neutrals I want. It's not too dark, it's not too grungy, it's still very night and light and neutral for every day, but still it has that undertone that I feel goes perfectly with the fall time, which is why I felt that the Cashmere had to make an appearance here. When I was planning out this video and like drawing up a list, I was like, what's another one? Because I hit 9 really easily, and I was like, what's going to be the 10th one? Like, what's a palette that I've tried in the past year that I haven't talked about that I think makes for a good fall color story? And then I had this light bulb moment. I was like, Cashmere, of course. I mean, like I said, it's already in the packaging. Like, the packaging makes this fall as well. So yeah, I love the selection I've got going on here. These are all palettes that I haven't tried yet or I've tried in the past year. And I will be doing these like updated seasonal color story kind of palette videos for sure, but I've got a lot more palette content planned for you this month for sure. I'm trying out 5 new eyeshadow palettes. There are 5 eyeshadow palettes I'm going to go back to. I'm currently still working on trying out all of the singles that I put in my little custom singles palette. So if you're wondering what's on my eyes today, these were singles that I put together for like September, October. And then next week I'm going to be updating you on like the new eyeshadows that I want to select, and that's going to be very fall grungy again as well. I have a vision for that one. I'm going to do another palette battle this month, and I'm going to be doing another Are They Dupes palettes. And some of the palettes you've seen today, now that I'm thinking about it, are actually going to make an appearance, because I believe the Cashmere, at least, is going to show up in a video this month for sure. So if you want to see more details on these palettes, then definitely stay tuned because I've got a lot more planned for you. So for now, I really hope you enjoyed watching today's video. Thank you so very much for watching. Thumbs up the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more by me. I make several videos a week, and as I mentioned, I have a lot more eyeshadow palette content coming your way for sure. So if you'd like to stay tuned, and I hope to see you in my next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.